with community announcements. We're gonna have plenty of time for the mayor's address and question and answers. So, we're gonna get started. So, I'll make the first community announcement. Our next chamber meeting will be Tuesday, May 7th, and we will be doing our traditional trip to the Do-Re-Mi Gospel Music Academy. So, put that on your calendar. It's an extra 10 minutes out of town maybe, but it's worth the trip. They've done a lot of work out there. They have a beautiful deck. They're starting on a museum, and they always make us a really nice lunch. They have a full kitchen. If you've not been there, you should go and see the facility because it is for rent for family reunions, class reunions. It's a really beautiful facility. So that'll be May 7th. Okay, community announcements. Seth.
Wilson Bank and Trust will have the Easter Bunny at our location on April 13th from 8:30 to noon in our lobby. Bring your cell phone and your kids if you want to get pictures with them. And then after that, 12:30 at the city park, we'll be hosting an Easter egg hunt for the kids of the community. So hope everybody can come out to that. Thank you.
I've got two things. I remind folks that this is Bridgewater's Chicken Extravaganza, which is a celebration of all things chicken. It'll be a little bit over a month from now, and make sure that people get it. I'll also mention it at our next meeting as well. But also, the Historical Society does not meet this Saturday, but our next Saturday at 2 o'clock at the Archives Building. Our speaker will be the Barefoot Gardener, Jeff Poppin, and should be very entertaining, and we're doing that in conjunction with the Extension Service.
Wonderful. If you've not seen the Barefoot Gardener, he's quite interesting.
Yes,
Oh, yes, it's his birthday. Jerry.
Hartsville Rotary Golf Tournament, May 11th, second Saturday in May, 8 a.m., Walhalla Golf Course. If you don't play, you can sign up for $30. There are some other sponsorships for that. So, we'll support it in some fashion.
Thank you. Would you like to make an announcement? Sure.
Hello, I'm Tim Diffenderfer. I'm the recent new county health director for Trousdale and Wilson County, and I just wanted to put a good plug in for the Family Fun Day. That's going to take place Saturday, April the 27th over at Trey Park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're expecting maybe 300 or 400 people or better, so I just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do it. Zach?
I just want to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. My name is Zach Swapper. I'm the newest pharmacist up here at Hartsville Pharmacy. Raised in this community, so just really interested in getting involved in the community, both personally and from a business perspective, to see what Hartsville Pharmacy can help with our community. So, thanks.
Do you have any other community announcements?
My name is Sheila Everett. I work at the public library, Fred A. Galt Library. We've got some new programs starting up next Monday, and every Monday we're going to be having sign language classes, which I'll be learning it myself, but we're going to watch videos and use the handouts on this program that we've got. I think there's a need for that. If you know anybody that would like to attend, send them our way. Our calendar is on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and we're starting to, we're going to start a partnership with hats. The lady just came and talked to me. She's got money to give to people with disabilities. She's got to get rid of this money by, I think, July, the end of June. Then she'll be getting more money. So if you know someone who's disabled that can't get out and mow their yard, do work around the house, she said they will pay to have this done. The only thing, you just have to fill out the application. It doesn't interfere, or you don't have to even say that you get disability or Social Security. It doesn't interfere with any of that at all. So I've got her information. If any of you are interested, if she could come and speak at some of your events. We're going to have her at the library to speak. So just remember that. And this would be for this family support program. They used to have the hats
spread the word. If you know someone with disabilities who needs help, direct them for now to the library. When they get a flyer and more information, it'll be on the Chamber's Facebook page as well.
The, kids can get computers, iPads, you know, I guess it's just, it sounds good to me. I mean, free money and for people that need it, so. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and introduce Mayor Chambers with his State of the County address. One more thing, if you're new to this whole lunch setup, your dessert is through the little door. The banana pudding's over there. Okay?
Thank you very much. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the State of the County address. And I'd like to thank each one of you for being here today. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to recognize some of the local officials we have. We have our County Commission Chairman, Mr. Jerry Ford, is with us. We have our, as he already introduced himself, Mr. Tim Diffenderfer, who's over our County Health Department. We also have our local road superintendent, Mr. Bill Scruggs, and our water department general manager, Tommy McFarland, is also here. And I'd also like to take this opportunity, even though she doesn't want to recognize my executive assistant, Ms. Amy Thomas, who has been invaluable along with the rest of the mayor's staff and keeping me in line and letting me know exactly what I need to be doing. So it's been very, very helpful. You know, when you think about coming up here and giving a State of the County address, one of the things you ask yourself is, okay, what exactly does that mean? What is the state of the county? And looking at it, I would say the state of the county, Trousdale County, is that it's growing. Not just in terms of population, but also in terms of the number of businesses we have here in our community. It's also involved. The residents here like to be involved in organizations to help improve their community. The county government is also moving forward with doing projects, not only address infrastructure issues, but also try to prepare the county for the future growth that we can foresee at this point. And we're also moving to increase transparency for the local government and increase the efficiency of the local government through various means, which hopefully I'll get into here in a moment. First, address for growth. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Trousdale County has grown from 2010 with a population of about 7,864 to an estimated population in 2017 of 10,083. That is a raw number growth of 2,219 new residents, or 28%. To put this in perspective, Trousdale County is #1 in the state in terms of growth of population. We are ahead of Williamson County, Rutherford County, and Davidson County. To just think about that, the smallest county in Tennessee in terms of land size is #1 in growth as far as population. And speaking of population, we have to measure that because we have a census coming up in 2020, and the census is very important because it affects not only federal funding that comes to the county, but it also is used to recruit businesses who look at our census numbers to see if it's a very good investment coming in the county where there's a population here to support their businesses. It also is used to determine apportionment in the United States House of Representatives for the state of Tennessee. So we need everyone participating in that because you could end up having another U.S. representative. It's also used to redistrict, not just for the U.S. House of Representatives, but also for both chambers of the state legislature, and also to redistrict for the state legislature, the federal government, and also the local government. And this census is going to be unlike any other ones. For the first time, you'll be able to actually respond online to this census. You'll also be able to respond by phone or mail. And the whole goal of this is to try to reduce household visits from someone from the census, because that's usually, most people don't like somebody just walking up on the door and want to know how many people are in the house or anything like this. So they're looking to increase voluntary participation through the online, phone, and mail. As far as citizens getting involved, I want to tell you some of the involvement that I've experienced and noticed since I've been county mayor and beforehand. One of the places that people volunteer is at the local senior citizen center. They come out and they volunteer to help other senior citizens. They teach them different crafts. I think I went over one day and they were working on baskets, and they did very good baskets. I would hate to see if I tried to do something like that, how it would turn out. It probably wouldn't turn out near as well as theirs did. People also volunteer to assist Mid-Cumberland Human Resources Meals on Wheels program. to deliver meals to our homebound residents here in Trousdale County. For some people, this is some of the only meals they get, and not only that, it's also some of the only interaction they have with someone outside of their home. The Hartsville Little League, if you've been out to the park, has been very involved. They've totally redone all the press boxes out there, and torn down the ones that were there and built entirely new ones. They've actually built them so that they're high enough out of any flood level that they would not be damaged in case we do have any more rain and flooding, which we've obviously experienced here lately. The Community Health Center has been involved with trying to get people clothing and food through the Second Harvest Food Bank. And as you know, they've moved to a new location, I've told has increased their traffic to that site. The Community Health Center and its representative Julie Hadlock have been very involved in trying to assist people coming out of our criminal justice system to give them a better start so that they do not go back into the criminal justice system to try to reduce recidivism. I know since I've been in there, when we had a code spell, I talked to Ms. Hadlock, and she actually had 2 new gentlemen who become part of their program, and she was helping to provide transportation for that got jobs. And they were actually saving up, and last time I spoke to them, they were looking to move out to apartments on their own. So that's been very good to try to reduce recidivism and get people out on the right foot when they come out of the criminal justice system. And speaking of the Community Health Center and Ms. Hadlock at the Next Step Resource Center, they were very invaluable during this last winter. For all cold periods, they coordinated with the Trousdale County Sheriff's Department and the Emergency Management Agency to provide shelter and clothing and food to anyone who needed it. So that's been very good. I know that was been a concern in the past, and that was something that was able to be done. And actually, Ms. Hadlock and the Next Step Resource Center had available space, so they would house anyone who needed it. And those would be males. If they had any females that needed it, she was actually able to transport them to the community, to the Cookville Rescue Mission, so they could house families and females there. And she was actually, I know she transported so a few people there, and there was a family that needed assistance, and she helped them get into the Cookville Rescue Mission. As far as projects, we have some projects that we've taken on that were done out of necessity, whether it's because of state requirements or just needed to be done. The most glaring example has been something I've been talking about since I've been mayor, and that's our landfill out of Gammons Lane. We actually have 2 landfills, however, one of them, the state said we have a leachate problem, which is basically water is going down into the cap, coming through the rock strata and coming out near a spring, and it has some of the contamination levels in the water was a little bit higher than what the state liked, so they required us to do some work on that. The county did set aside what being estimated $644,000 to repair that. Actually, yesterday, our professional services selection committee chose an engineering firm that's going to come up with our corrective action plan, and we'll oversee construction as we go forward on that. So we're moving forward on that, and we hope that as we get into it and have an engineering firm look at it, there may be ways to address the issues that'll address issues that TDEC has found that is not nearly as expensive as $644,000. Another issue we're addressing is through our water and sewer department. The Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation said 3 of our tanks are in danger of failing. One of them actually had a 4-inch hole in the top of it, and the other one, I think, about the top 4 feet of it or so. The trusses were deteriorating, and the roof was in danger of collapse. So the water department is cooperating with an engineer to take a look at it and see what would be the best way to address those issues going forward. We're looking at whether it would be better to repair those tanks or it would be better to replace those tanks with a 1 million gallon tank that would hopefully not only increase our capacity to store water, but also improve some of our flow issues into the community. If we're going to repair the tanks, we need to keep in mind that some of those are 3 or 4 decades old. So you do a cost-benefit analysis. Is it more effective to repair a tank that's already as old or older than I am, or would it be better to just go ahead and replace it with a new tank? Also, we've spoken with Mr. McFarland and myself and brought it up to the Water Board, and the Tennessee Department of Environment Conservation is also starting to look into this. Is we have an issue of what's called inflow and infiltration, which is rainwater that gets into your sewer system, whether through cracks or manhole covers that doesn't seal right. To give you an idea of how bad of an issue we have, in 2017, the Department of Environment Conservation estimated that the amount of flow going through our sewage and treatment plant, 58% of that is rainwater getting into our sewer system, and that accounted for 90.7 million gallons a year. So if we can address that, not only will that keep pressure down on future rate increases, but it'll also make our plant much more efficient and able to accommodate some of the growth we are experiencing. And also can make some of our industrial properties, particularly the PowerCom Industrial Center, much more attractive to any industry may look into it, because we'd have more sewer capacity that's not being taken up by the infiltration and inflow. And to just let you know, that is not a Trousdale County specific problem. That is a problem all over the state of Tennessee. Some of them have much more serious problems with infiltration and inflow than we do, but that is something we are definitely looking to address. Another thing that's carrying forward, and this is an initiative started by Mayor Carmen, and we're continuing on, is the streetscape project, which will be to kind of redo the sidewalks and some of the parking situations in downtown. It'll start at the corner of Main Street and River Street, which is by the Hartsville-Trousdale County intersection, down to the intersection of Main Street and Broadway by a total image. They'll redo the sidewalks on both sides of the road and actually increase some of the downtown parking in front of the courthouse, whereas right now we have the parking that used to be there was taken away with the new decorations. They're going to take that up and put some parallel parking there. It would also change the current angular parking in front of the block that Dilla hangs on into parallel parking. So we'll lose some space there, but we'll gain some other in front of the courthouse. And that project is currently moving forward. We've actually submitted all of the documentation that we're required to submit at this point to the Department of Transportation. We're waiting for their approval. Once we get their approval, we'll move forward in the right-of-way part of our project. So we're actually a little bit ahead of the game in terms of other communities and getting that information in the Department of Transportation, and which is going to be a good thing, because the federal government, whose money that is, it's actually flow-through funds, comes from the federal government through the state to us, has given every project in the state of Tennessee to July 15th to have TDOT approval to begin construction. If we do not have that by July 15th, those funds will be taken back by the federal government. So we're on a very good timeline to have that in ahead of time. Actually, we thought we'd have some of that documentation in by the end of April, and we've already gotten it in now. So I think we're ahead of the game as far as that goes, and engineers feel very confident that we will have TDOT approval before the deadline that TDOT itself has set at July 1st. Some of the other growth, as I've mentioned, is businesses in our community. You know, we've experienced a lot of economic growth. A lot of people don't really think about it, because unless you pull some of the business leads, you won't realize we've actually had a lot of new businesses that have started in Trousdale County that are people operating out of their homes, whether they're selling stuff out of their homes or participating in e-commerce and other avenues. We've also had new businesses start up that are stores or some fronts that you can go into. The Sweet Country Bakery down here is going to open up. They were supposed to open up yesterday. They had a little bit of setback, but they're coming soon. So that's a new development in downtown. The Texas Boot Factory has originally bought Keith and Nancy Fry, and they're going to look into moving a couple businesses in there and improve that part of the county. And I know that was a great welcome sight. The Planning Commission, I believe Mr. Kerr said that Mr. Fry will be nominated for Citizen of the Year for cleaning up that property. So we're going to make great use of that, and that's a new industry moving into the county.
And we'd like to also say that we have a lot of Bradford pear trees on the property we'd like to see go to good homes. And
Yes,
if
ma'am.
anybody here has any ideas of like fundraisers or anything like that, where we can gather up these and sell them or donate them for properties, let us know. Thank you.
And one of the initiatives that we're going to look at going forward is to try to have a more robust economic development program. We're actually having a meeting on April 8th from different organizations that are involved in economic development and locals who will be involved in that kind of effort. What that effort is to do is try to set up a program. Let's say we have an industry that's interested in coming in the PowerCom part. We need to have a local team that can actually be involved in that project and that can either answer questions that the company may have or just address and give more information on the community itself. It was very advantageous for Baxter to actually recently landed a tile company that's going to be a major employer in that area. And one of the things they talked about is how much the local team played into getting that business to come to their county. So that's something I think we need to take advantage of. And as I've spoken to different economic development organizations, that was something they were greatly interested in. We also need to look at trying to help small businesses here. And when I say help, I don't mean monetarily help them. I mean, we need to be able to try to create a streamlined process, get the information that's readily available to people that want to start businesses. One of the things I've been told is that people want to start a business, but they don't know exactly how to go about it or where they need to go to get certain things. We need to make sure that we create some kind of documentation or something we can hand out to them, let them know that there is a streamlined process in place, that if you want to start a business in Trousdale County, here's how you go about it, here's who you need to talk to, here's some of the considerations you need to look at. We're also looking at maybe partnering with some other organizations to create a co-working space here inside Trousdale County, which is basically it's like an office space. You can go in, it has an open desk space, somebody can come in, set their laptop down if they can telecommute or run their own business out of that space. Or you can also have little cubicles or even office space on that if people want to come in and use that as their actual office. We can also pair that with the Area Workforce Development Board. I've had conversations with them, and if they were said if we can find a space that's large enough, the Workforce Development Board would look into opening an American Job Center here, which helps people that are looking for jobs. They can line them up with employers, help them access available training funds, and even maybe sometimes work with organizations that can provide child care so they can either attend classes or go to work. And we are the only county out of 13 in our area that doesn't have one of these. And that's been a major initiative from the Workforce Development Board Chief Local Elected Official Anthony Holt, Sumner County Executive. That's been a major initiative of his, and he's been very helpful in trying to find a place and help us get that into our county so that our citizens can take advantage of it. Because right now you have to either drive to Gallatin or Lebanon. It'd be much more effective for our residents to just come to Hartsville and not have to drive that far. And looking through business development, you have to look no further than the number of food trucks and trailers we've got here in the county that started operating here recently. We actually had one yesterday out by the administration building, and I was a little under the weather, so I tried to stay away from people and not expose anybody yesterday, but I was told that they actually sold out an hour or so ahead of what they anticipated, so it was very successful. And I know that's something in other communities, especially Nashville, when I work downtown, the food truck scene down there was very, I hate to say jumping and sound old-fashioned, but it was very involved, and a lot of people were interested in participating in something like that. And I've heard the same thing here in Trousdale County, so we need to be able to take advantage of that. One of the things we need to do is try to get some very minimum, in my view, regulations in place, because they are pretty much heavily regulated by the state already through the Department of Health. Get those things in place so everybody knows where they can be, where they can't be. There's been a lot of questions about where they can operate and where they can't operate, so we just want to get those things taken care of and addressed. We also need to work to develop tourism here in Trousdale County. That is a great asset I think we could take advantage of. We have the Cumberland River here, we have Taylor's Landing, we have the other assets here in Trousdale County that I think we can take advantage of to try to increase tourism and do economic development into our area. You can do things, maybe kayaking, or maybe have somebody who has a piece of property that can put walking trails on it and other things like that. We can try to develop Taylor's Landing to maybe put some more walking trails back down there. There used to be an archery range there. Try to develop that and improve that area so that it's not known as a bad part of, you don't go into it after dark right now, but I think we could really take advantage of that and help tourism development here in the county, which would in turn help a lot of businesses here. So people come in, maybe on the weekend, come down here to fish or just go out on the river, maybe ski or something like that, and they can come to local business here, get their fuel, get their food, and enjoy themselves where they're in Trousdale County. We also have and I hate to say I'm surprised at this because I wasn't very involved in it, but we have a very active local artist scene, and we need to take advantage of that well. We have photographers here, we have painters here, we have craftsmen here. We need to make sure that the people know these people are here. We need to see if there's a way we can provide maybe a space for them, whether it's through the co-working space or whatnot, to try to have maybe some pop-up shops that people have told me they're interested in, which would be somebody comes in maybe once a month and has a space where people can come in and buy some of their goods or what have you, and once a month you maybe rotate that out and have 4 different businesses throughout the month come in. That's something that a lot of people have been interested in. Hopefully we can develop a space for that as well. We need to take all these things that we have and try to have a marketing push and put ourselves out there and let people know what Trousdale County has. And I'll give you an example. I was contacted by a company called American Wonder Porcelain over in Lebanon. It was a new tile company, and they specifically asked, well, how can we get people from Trousdale County? We want people from Trousdale County to work for us. So we were able to work with the Tennessee College of Applied Technology out here and set up a job fair, and they came out there and spoke to some students. They didn't know they were high school students, and they were participating in the mechatronics program. Well, after it was over, and they said, those are high school students? I said, yes, they're high school students, they're our mechatronics program. And actually, Mr. Dickerson, who was covering for our mechatronics teacher that day, said, if someone is to go through that program, they can actually graduate from high school with a Siemens Level 1 certification. Now, to give you an idea, somebody can graduate with a Siemens Level 1 in our job environment today, to come out of high school at 18 years old and make $25 an hour. So that's something we need to make sure that people realize we have that resource here in Trousdale County, not only at the high school, but also through the Tennessee Center College of Applied Technology. We also need to work with Volunteer State, who has a lot of programs in economic development and to try to help people advance and increase their skill set. They're interested in looking at maybe doing an off-site classroom here, and they also would be interested maybe if the space is big enough, or the co-working space is going to be, to have an off-site classroom where people can come in and take a lot of classes there and maybe only go to Vol State for 1 or 2 semesters and graduate with a degree. And that's something we need to take advantage of. But we need to let people know what resources, what skill set the people here in Trousdale County have. And I'll give you an example. I received an email, and I don't remember who it's from, maybe Mr. Diffenderf, and if it was, I apologize, talking about the percentages of people that have bachelor's degree in surrounding counties and what they have. Trousdale County is #1 in our area as far as people that have a bachelor's degree in science and engineering fields. We are at 45%. I believe we're about 15 or 20% higher than either Sumner or Wilson County. So we need to let people know that we have those skill sets here and that people will be able to take advantage of it. There are also some changes going on in county government. We're working to make our county government more transparent. I don't know, maybe some of you have seen, I'm trying to stream as many meetings as I can on Facebook. We're also working to digitize past county records, particularly those that are related to the county commission, because as we found, we went back and there was things that were passed, ordinances that even the county staff didn't know about. So we're working to make those into a digital format so they can be searched, and maybe put those online in another format so that people can search them and see exactly what has transpired in the past and be more informed as to the operations of the county. We're also working to assemble and modernize all the county ordinances. When the county went metropolitan, they left in place both the county ordinances and the city ordinances that cover the general and urban services area. So we're trying to get those all collected in one place and modernize those. As I've been looking through the municipal code for Hartsville, that would actually cover our urban services area. Some of those were passed in 1975, and you can read through them and see that we've had a lot of change since then. And we need to go back and make sure we modernize all our ordinances and do away with those things that maybe don't apply anymore, or something that's been superseded by state law, and get that streamlined. We're also working to make the county government more efficient through the use of technology, and one of the examples is Miss Amy brought it to our attention, and we actually got a new software program that's going to help us keep better track of all the capital assets of the county, so that we're more informed and more readily available, especially when the auditors come around, because I like to be as organized as possible. We're also looking to make the county government more efficient through new practices. One of the things I want to take a look at, and the building committee has been particularly interested in, is having an energy assessment done of all our buildings to see if there's a way to make our buildings more energy efficient. It may be kind of a high upfront cost, but looking at some other surrounding counties, most particularly Montgomery County, I've spoken to them, and they did a $5 million update on all their buildings. Now, granted, that was $5 million, but they have 120-something buildings that they modernized, and we've got about maybe 10 or 12. But they looked at it, and their savings, actually over the first 6 months, their savings were greater than they anticipated. So that loan that they took out is going to be paid off much quicker than they anticipated. So it'll allow them to move from where their energy needs are an expense, where they're actually going to be cost savings that can be transferred and done other things and other improvement prospects. We're also increasing our efficiency by taking advantage, and I hate to say advantage, but that's the only way I can term it, of these little incidents we've had, like the power failure we had over a little month ago. It lasted about 30 minutes. Or the flooding that's occurred recently, to see what exactly are the gaps in our emergency response systems and correct those problems before we have major issues. One of the things that happened is when the power went out, the county phone system and internet system went down because the generator at the administration building did not come on, and that's where that equipment is located. So what came out of that is Chief Cawthon said we need to have a backup power supply, and so we're getting that in place, and Tri-County's helping us with that. So hopefully, if that situation occurs again, that the generator doesn't come on, we do have at least a period of time where we still have phone system and internet systems in operation. And we also realized that when the last major flooding that we had, I worked with the EMA director, Chief Beatty, and we were looking at opening up a shelter at the high school, and we realized that we only had a few people that could staff it. We wouldn't have near enough people, so we need to work to have a volunteer group in place that if we have a situation like that again and we need to open an emergency shelter, we have a volunteer base ready to come in that knows how to operate it and is ready to go when they're called. So those are just some of the things that are going on in Trousdale County. I know I probably didn't cover maybe some of the issues you have, but those are some of the main issues that we've been dealing with and things that have happened in the county over the last 6-7 months since I've been in office. So at this point, if you've got any questions on maybe something I didn't speak about or something you want to clarify, I'll be willing to take those right now. Mr. Oliver?
Does the population include the prison or not?
The population does include the prison, much to the chagrin to prisoners' rights groups. It does include them. However, we have had growth obviously outside of that, and that's why it's so important to take advantage of the reporting through the census so we know exactly what that growth looks like and what percentage is actually new residents to the county versus the prison population, because that makes a great impact. You know, like I said, it's going to be redistricting. What district are we going to be in as far as our state house or state senate, or what kind of federal funds we would maybe be available to us based on our increased population, those kind of things. So it's very important that we get people to participate in that so that we can get an exact number and figure out exactly where we stand on that going forward. Yes, Mr. Norman.
You had the streetscape thing, and also they were doing the 141. You heard anything on the 141 corridor?
The 141 corridor, they said we were included in the Improve Act, so there is a timeline when they have to fund that. They didn't give us an exact stance on that. As you know, I think the 440 project, when they bid that out, actually came in costing much more than they anticipated. So that, I'm sure, required some moving around of their projects. Where we are on that, I haven't got an answer on that yet, but it is in the Improve Act and it must be funded. So hopefully sometime, I was told maybe in the next 30 months, but that's subject to change. But it will be funded as is required by the Improve Act and one of their required projects. Mr. Richmond, I think you have.
Has it been discussed, or I think it has been discussed to move the city limits, or I guess the urban services district, east, where it would include the prison?
There has been some discussion on that, not just moving it east over to the Powercom side, but maybe some of the subdivisions that have popped up close to the urban service boundaries, maybe expanding to take those in and provide trash service and other urban services to those areas. That has been discussed, but one of the things I think we need to do is have a cost-benefit analysis. If we expand to these areas, what is going to be the cost of the county moving forward versus the increased revenue? So we need to take that into consideration and then make a decision on that going forward. So we're at just the very early stages of that. There's not been any advanced discussion. It's right now still trying to assess where we stand. It hasn't been discussed. Yes,
Where
ma'am.
are we on the implementation of the internet that they through Tri-County? Where are we on that?
Well, I believe it may be in the Vidette. Tri-County's project, I guess, progress has been delayed a little bit because they didn't get the second round grant that's available through the state. We got the first round through the broadband accessibility grant. When I say we, I mean Tri-County. They got that in the first round, but they didn't get it in the second round, so that's set them behind a little bit. Maybe some of the third-year projects have been moved to a fourth year, so it is behind a little bit, but they still wanted to provide internet to as much of the county as they can. So they are moving on forward on that. It's just they're going to be delayed a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
Are we still working on sidewalks outside of the stretch here? Are we still working on sidewalks through neighborhoods to increase access to schools?
Well, one of the things that came about that, and it's something that came through the War School Preservation Society and working with Greater National Regional Council, they recommended that we have a study done to increase not only the sidewalks in the area, but greenways and blueways and other improvements maybe. As I said, I threw in Taylor's Landing to look at that, at that same conversation. So that was something that was discussed, and it was told to us that if we can get a plan like that together going forward. There may be other avenues or grant monies to help fund sidewalk improvements and those kind of things, but we'd have to have that plan in place first, so we can use that to support any applications we have, so they can see exactly what it is we're proposing to fund. But those have been discussed, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Could you address briefly where we are on the investors for the hotel project?
That is not going through the county. The only involvement the county had in that was initially funding the hotel feasibility study, and that was not to lure Cobblestone specifically. That was to market any hotel chain that may be interested in it. So I would turn any questions of that over to Ms. Knudsen. She's been very involved in that. But as far as the county goes, outside of funding that feasibility study, we're not involved. That's up to a local investment group. Yes, sir.
Still looking at combining the EMS and the fire department all into one.
That is still being looked at. I think it was set off from last month to this month from the county commission. I'm actually have a meeting on Friday to speak to Chief Beatty and Beeler about kind of moving forward in that project, on that process. How exactly would it look? What are little hiccups that may go along the way? So that is something that's still being looked at.
Isn't it true that if we have a full-time person at the fire department, our insurance rates go down?
It could be true for certain areas, and that would only be within a 5-mile radius of the fire station, and that's using the ISO rating. And keep in mind, not all insurance companies rely on the ISO anymore, so it just kind of varies from company to company. But if you're using that model, the ISO, having somebody there full-time does impact it, but it doesn't matter if they're paid or volunteer. It's just having staff available at the time. There's other communities I've looked at that actually staffed their fire halls 24/7, but they did it through rotating volunteer schedules. They did a poll and found that they could have enough members available to have somebody there 24/7, so they set up a shift schedule using their volunteers, and their ISO rating went from a 6 to a 4. But whether you're paid or not has no bearing on it. It's just availability of staff that plays into it. And there's a lot of record keeping and other things that play into it too. That's just one of the factors that goes into that. Is there any other questions?
What's the budget looking like? We're gonna have a tax increase?
It's looking like a bunch of numbers right now. Are we gonna have a tax increase? I certainly hope not. We are having increased revenue, so that's a plus. Are we gonna have an increased revenue that is going to make up some of the deficits we had from last year? At this point, I don't think so. But we've also had some efficiencies and some things we're looking at to try to decrease expenses right now that I think will put us in a better position. But as you know, one of the big things we got to look at is how that BEP funding is going to come out, and that fiscal capacity is going to impact us. And unfortunately, the state doesn't have those final numbers until May, so we're already kind of into that budget season for the county commission when that comes up. But I think we're looking better right now. I certainly hope to avoid any tax increases. That's going to be my number one thing, to avoid tax increases at any cost almost. But ultimately, that's up to the county commission, which you're sir are a member of, not myself. Well, if there's no further questions, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Chambers. You may have noticed on your tables, there are these things. They're little magnets. Some organization sends them to the chamber and I don't pay for them, so I am sharing them. So take one, put it on your refrigerator. It has the handy basic emergency numbers for Trousdale County, which of course if you're in a panic you can never find, so it's good to know there. We're gonna draw for our door prizes. We have a pair of movie tickets courtesy of Jerry at WTNK, and we have a cylinder fill for a 20-pound grill cylinder from Advanced Propane. So we'll let Mayor Chambers draw. You're not gonna win that. Okay, our first winner, the last four numbers are 7296. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, the last four numbers on the movie tickets is 7283. Ah, Miss Stephanie wins. So. coming out today. We enjoyed having you. Again, our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 7th at Do Re Mi Gospel Music Academy. The address and all that will be coming later. It's on South 141. Thank you. Have a great day.
No,